We are continuing 24 authors in 12 hours. I'm here with the amazing AK Gilbert, and we already started behind the scenes. I'll just tell you, we're already having a wonderful conversation. And he already confessed to me, everyone. I know it's a shock, but his least favorite thing is editing. Let's talk about that a minute. Why is editing like the worst?
Because you start out writing the book and you think it's great, and then you go back and you look at it and you'll see something that you missed or something that shouldn't be there, period. And then you have to go through the process of checking it and do line editing. And when you're doing it yourself with 415,000 words, it can take a long time, and it drains. I feel like it drains my creativity. Like I'm so focused on the editing that my mind's not on moving the story, and that's probably why I absolutely just despise doing the edit work.
Yeah, and I find that no matter how many times you edit, and even having, hired people to edit, there's always one or two like typos or things in there
Right.
that gets pointed out when the book gets published. And you're just like, how did we miss this when it's been gone over by like 10 people? And
Yeah, yeah. And I've read book one probably 17 times probably, and I'm still finding stuff right now. We updated the file. I think we updated it last week, and
so
hopefully one day. Yeah.
so your first book, let's talk about that a little. You write Gods and Men. Let's talk about a little bit about what is this genre. And while you do that, I'm going to go ahead and take some of your information and put it into the chat so our readers can download your book. So
Okay. Well, Gods and Men, it's an epic fantasy story. I got into epic fantasy probably when I saw the Hobbit cartoon. I actually saw the cartoon Hobbit before I even read the book. And I think we read the book in fifth grade class, I think. And from that point on, I just started drawing maps. And once I started drawing maps, I knew eventually it was going to turn into my own epic fantasy series. I didn't know it was going to be 5 books long. I thought I was going to do like a trilogy. But then, yeah, it kept growing and growing and growing. And the first draft of the book wasn't about 180 pages long. And then I got it back from my first publisher that I was going to go with. And I said, well, that's kind of light. So I started adding characters. And when you add characters, you get more storylines. And so now I got this 5 series book on my hands, and they'll probably keep me busy for the next decade.
So I think that kind of really leads away to a question I love to ask authors about, like, do you plan out in script? Are you somebody who kind of likes character development happen, some kind of combination? How do you get the story to happen?
Well, I draw on the words of George Martin, who wrote the A Song of Ice and Fire. He says there's 2 kinds of authors. There's the gardener and there's the architect. The gardener kind of just goes along and he tends the garden here and there and lets the story come. Then the architect, he lays it all out. He knows what's going to happen. I prefer to be an architect in this case because I have 300 characters. And if I don't have some kind of structure, then I'm going to miss something. I'm going to have a plot hole, and I'll have to go back and fix that. So I think that for this particular series, I think it's best to be a architect and have an outline, which I do. I outline every scene. I never have a moment where I sit down and I'm sitting there like wondering what I'm going to write because everything is on the outline. And I think that's the best way to do a book this size.
So how many pages are your average book?
Well, this one, the way it's formatted, it's a huge book. I think it's 11 by 9, and it's got 767 pages, I think, and they're huge pages. So yeah, it took some doing.
Okay, I'm going to also put your author website in here, and amazing graphics. Do you want to talk a little bit about how do you bring everything to life? How do you get these graphics to happen?
Yeah, that actually goes to the credit to my team at my publisher at Book Writing Pioneer. Simon Akerson, he's been my guy since I signed with the company, and the design team on the website, they have always done a perfect job. I'll give them input, and it's like that, and they'll just show up on the website. And I could not ask for a better team than I have right now.
So you brought up a really wonderful point that you kind of started off your journey as a writer in elementary school, where you were first a reader. And so I really kind of want to highlight we're going into banned book week. I don't know if you're familiar with this concept, but all kinds of books are banned. And so this is where we highlight all the banned books, which I think Tolkien has been on that list a few different times.
Right.
Um, are there any particular banned books that have influenced you, or any books other than Tolkien that have influenced you, or particular teachers you want to talk about who kind of inspired your writing journey?
Well, as far as the influences goes, with epic fantasy, go right to the godfather of modern fantasy, and that's Tolkien. And
Mhm.
I think that we all try to reach that level, but none of us ever get to there. And aside from Tolkien, I would say I would go far back as Edgar Allan Poe. I mean, I was watching a movie based after one of his books or his poems, and I was like, I wish I had written that because it was just so perfect. And moving on toward the modern days, I would have to say George Martin, who wrote the Song of Ice and Fire. And I kind of patterned my style after Tolkien and George Martin with a little bit of Edgar Allan Poe in there. And also want to mention Gene Roddenberry from Star Trek. People don't put him in the category of great storytellers, but if you go back and watch some of those episodes of Star Trek, that was Gene Roddenberry, and it was just perfect writing. So I would have to say those four people probably inspired me the most.
Yeah, and it's such an important point that reading inspires writing, writing inspires reading. Let's talk about your personal journey as a writer when it comes to
Mhm.
how do you get the time to write? I mean, everyone is busy. Everyone's got a thousand things going on. As a writer, what is your, how are you able to like carve out that time out of your busy days to make sure
Mhm.
that you're getting, words on paper?
Well, I'm blessed with a job where I only have to work 4 days a week, so I'm off Saturday through Monday, and that is really my time when I sit down and do my writing. I'll edit during the week because I go to work early. I'll get up and I'll edit 4 or 5 pages in the morning, then I'll go to work, and then on the weekends I sit down and I write, and I can write 8 hours a day and never get up. And I've actually written to the point where I almost passed out writing one time because I just sat there all day, just head down and just writing. So time really is no issue. I can sit down and just pick up right where I left off, and I have 3 days straight to just sit down and just write, and that is a great blessing.
Do you ever have writer's block? Do you ever have times when you're just like, I'm done. I've got no idea what I'm going to write next, or something's just not
I
coming together?
I never suffer from writer's block because I have an outline. Example, my outline for book three that I'm already working on is 17,000 words long, just the outline. So no, there's never a moment when I sit down and I'm like, well, what am I going to write? Because I have it all on my outline. And now there are times when I have to go back and tweak it here and there. Like maybe this isn't working, or I want to change what this character says or does. But I have never suffered from writer's block because I have that outline. And like I said, with a book this size, I mean, it's 400,000 words. If I didn't have an outline, then there are times when I would sit down and just be totally lost. And because I have 13 centuries of backstories that I had to go back and write. And if I didn't have that, then I would also be lost. So the backstories are probably just like a second outline.
So wonderful point. So, your books,
Mhm.
let's talk about who is your audience? Who do you want to read these books, and what impact do you want to make on them?
Well, I think anybody that enjoys epic fantasy, if you like Tolkien and Martin and people like that, and the whole Sword and Sorcery series, if anyone who likes that, or even if you just like watching movies that are like that, like Conan or Willow or Red Sonja, going all the way back to the 80s, and because I actually wrote my books to read like you're watching a movie. Because each cutscene has a header on it. It tells you where you are, tells you what time it is. You know exactly where you are in the story. And I had one person who texted me who had finished the entire book, and she said it felt like I was watching a movie. And I was like, well, that's exactly what I wanted you to feel. I want you to feel like you're sitting there just watching it happen. And yes, she was very excited about it, and that's probably the best thing I've heard back so far from a reader because I felt like that I accomplished my goal.
So let's talk about feedback a minute. I think that's a super important point
Mhm,
for all of the authors out there. We get feedback. Sometimes it's good feedback, sometimes it's not so good feedback.
mhm.
I love to hear that you delivered for someone. Have you ever had bad feedback or feedback that was hard for you to take, and how did you handle it?
I've had no negative feedback whatsoever so far. And I got both fingers crossed. I got my toes crossed, and but yeah, I'm also very blessed. I have had zero negative feedback. Everyone who reads it, they will text me back and they'll say, "Well, this person is my favorite character. Don't kill them off." And I'm like, "Well, I mean, I hope not." But yeah, I've had zero negative comments so far.
What about beta readers? Do you have beta and ARC readers early on to help you in your development at all, or how do you go
I
about that process?
When I first started, I didn't even know what an ARC reader was. And I actually did not know what it was until my friend Joe, who you had on the show, until he named me as one of his ARC readers. I had never heard of it before. So, but I did give out some free books. I gave out about 10 free books, and they gave me their feedback. So I guess I had ARC readers. I just didn't know what an ARC reader was.
Did you get any feedback where you were surprised, or you had to go back and recraft anything, or?
Yeah, I got feedback from a person who early on they picked a character that I had built up. I had built up to carry the book, and then they don't make it out of the first chapter. And she actually texted me. She said, "You kill my favorite character in the first chapter," and I'm like, "Oh, well, I'm sorry." But yeah, and but I had to have that character because that character filled a hole that I had, and I had to bridge that hole so it would move the story where it needed to go. But that might be negative feedback. I don't think it is, but yeah, but that's just it.
I mean, it's constructive feedback, right? I mean, as authors,
Right.
we have to know our audience, and then we have to know that our books might not, if you're reading epic fantasy and then you read a business fable by me, you are probably not going to feel satisfied because this is not
Right.
your genre
Right.
of books or what you want to read. It's
Right.
one reason why I write under a pen name for some of my books, because I want to keep my audiences not confused. Because if you go in
Right.
and you're like, this is what I think I'm going to read, and with epic fantasy, there's definitely like an expectation of that, right, for your audience.
Hmm. Yeah. There definitely is. I mean, they know what they like, and I do my best to create characters that will resonate with everyone. I tell people all the time, there will be one character in this book that you will like, because there's 300 characters, and there is no main character. I'll leave that up to the reader. There's 4 or 5 characters that could carry the book, and you can attach, yourself to, and say, well, that's my main character. And that's also the way that I wanted to write it, because I wanted to have options. Because I had the foresight to know that eventually some of these people are going to die in the book, and if one dies, I want them to be able to pivot to someone else that they like. Because if you kill off your main character, then you're left with a story that's going to be empty. So I have 4 or 5 characters that if I have to lose one, they're there waiting.
I love that, and you're writing across centuries, so naturally there's natural attrition as well. That people,
Right.
not everybody lives forever.
That's right. Yeah. It's very based in realistic things that can happen. Because some people say, "Well, I can go out the door and get hit by a truck." Well, yeah, that can happen too. And in the book, everybody's not going to make it through the book, because you get on your horse and your horse throws you and you break your neck. That can happen in the book, and there are atrocities in the book where I will have to lose certain characters, and that's going to be really hard because I haven't really got to that moment yet where I have to cut half the cast, because I've wrote the first 2 books and I'm outlining the third book, and then I'm going to try to start winding the story down through 4 and 5. So probably midway through book 3 on through, there will be a massive cut in the cast, and I'm just not looking forward to it.
I think that's always hard. I wrote the first book. I had to kill somebody, and I cried. I was like, I felt really
Mhm.
terrible about killing my character, and So let's talk about that. What things haunt you about your characters? Have there been any particular characters where you're like, oh, that was like pretty brutal, and you think about it, and you're just like, how am I going to sleep at night? I just killed my favorite character.
Yeah, that actually happens in the first chapter. Actually, I built this certain character up, and I had not planned to kill them. That was something that was not in the outline. And then I would be like, well, if this character goes on, then this can't happen and that can't happen. But if I move this character out of the way, then that opens up more doors that I can take, the story in. And so I had to unfortunately lose that character, and it was a great character, and I actually erased it the first time that I killed this character. I went back and said, no, I don't want to do it. So I kind of fought with myself, and eventually I left it up to the story, and I was like, well, would the story be better with this character or better without it? And unfortunately for the character, I made the decision to just leave them out of the book from that point. But
So
it
for
was
you
hard.
as an author, after doing that, after writing it, did you have to go take a break or something? Did you need to go and like have your own kind of way that you were just like dealing with this? Did you grieve over your character?
I didn't grieve, but I did know that certain people wouldn't like it because it was such a great character. And I actually wrote it in the morning. It's one of the few times that I was writing in the morning, and I actually went to work like right after I killed this character, and it followed me around all day. And I had people asking all the time, Adam, how's the writing going? How's the writing going? I'm like, well, it's going, but I didn't tell them that I had just killed one of my favorite characters off. But yeah, it was hard, and I actually don't like thinking about it.
No, I think that's such an important point is you become emotionally invested,
Right, definitely.
with your characters as a writer. And it really is a difficult thing to do. At least it should be. Hopefully, it's a difficult thing to do. Let's pivot a little bit and let's talk about you do the writing, you do the editing. What about the marketing? How are you getting the word out about your book? First of all, you have a fantastic website.
Yes.
Um, interviews, book fairs, anything you have coming up that you want to share with the audience about where you're going to be and where they can get signed copies of the book.
I'm actually going to hopefully schedule a couple of in-person interviews here shortly, probably somewhere timed around the launch of book two, and that'll be in December. I think it's coming out on the 12th. It might have to be moved around a bit. I'm not entirely sure, but somewhere in there, I'm hopefully going to have at least one interview, and I'll have about 10 copies of the book there. And if if I can get my hands on them, I'm going to have a few copies of the second book there too. So if they want to buy book one and two, both of those will be there. But it just depends on timing and my work schedule about when I can set this up.
Okay, great.
Mhm.
And your books are available off Amazon and
Mhm.
as well as through your website, correct?
Yes, it's available on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, and Nakobo right now. And I also have it listed with Ingram Spark, and it is global now. Yeah.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, Ingram
Mhm.
Spark, if you're an author and you're not using it, I highly,
Yeah.
highly recommend it. And especially if you're going for hardbacks,
Right.
there are much better quality hardback providers out of Ingram
Yes,
Spark.
that's very true.
Okay, let's talk about your characters. Do you base
Mhm.
them off your own experiences? Do you base them off what you've read, a combination, just kind of things in your head? How do you kind of come up with these amazing characters that you have?
Well, I never create a character unless there is a need to create that character, because that's probably what I enjoy the most is creating characters. That's probably why I have 300 plus characters. But I never create one unless I have to, and some of them are based on people that I know. There's two characters in the book that I went to this person. I'm like, I think that you would make a great character because it helps me to have an image of the character in my head. Now, some of them are based off of actors, but most of my characters are based after people that I know. And I actually listed a couple of people in my credits in my first book, people that allowed me to base a character off of. Because I always ask people, I'm like, can I imagine you as one of my characters? If they say no, then I'm like, fine. So far, I've had 3 people that says absolutely. Just just use my image. So if when you're writing this for this character, just imagine that I am that character. And I've done that 3 times so far, and it works, and they love it. So I'll keep doing it.
I definitely find I tend to write where I base it off of, if I do base it off one person I ask, but then it's kind of a lot of just like amalgamations of different
Right.
people where I pull it all together. And then sometimes, I definitely will avoid, and so I'd love to ask you this question. Like, do you avoid reading or watching things because you feel like it could influence your writing too much and you don't want to appropriate other people's ideas?
Yeah, I think that we're always going to be influenced by what came before us, but most of my influences are 2,000 years old, or going all the way back to Rome or Greek mythology, or even the feudal system of medieval Europe. That's kind of the system that my people are governed by. It's a feudal system, and I'm not really influenced on so much as with modern works as I am with actual histories. And I think that's the best way to go, because I have a pantheon of gods, and that had to come from my love for Roman and Greek history. So yeah, I'm way more influenced in the past than I am the current.
Okay, great. So we are getting close to the time where we're going to wrap up. I would like to remind everybody to please like, to please subscribe, to please share. I love to get all of your feedback. I'm going to put a quick link in here to our product page, and hopefully people have seen it. We have 24 authors in 12 hours merch. If anybody's interested, we have coffee cups, we have beer mugs now, all kinds of fun stuff, as well as this is an author helping author event. So the only way that we do make any money off the event is donation. So if anybody wants to donate, we are always more than happy, because that's how we're able to bring these really great events to you. Everything here is broadcast live onto Facebook as well as to YouTube, and later on put into our Spotify channel, where we also do the author's cut, where we take authors like Joe, who you mentioned, who's having a baby. So took him
Mhm.
out of cycle onto the author's cut. Another great way that we're sharing out some great content. Before we wrap up, though, AK, what else have we not covered? I feel like we've just kind of taken around the world in 30 days kind of thing here. So, what else have we not covered that you want to talk about for your books?
Well, I think that we've covered most of it, because I actually prepped, and most of what we've talked about was actually in my notes. So yeah, I think we've hit everything so far.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Yeah.
And so, thank you so much for being here today. Appreciate
Mhm.
your time. Let us know whenever you're going to have that next book coming out, so we can share your links and some clips and things and make sure people are aware of it. And appreciate all of your time and energy. And just have a terrific and spooky Halloween month here.
I appreciate you very much. Thank you for having me.